Welcome back to Wisconsin Family. We are down in Janesville filming at a Glow Spa and Salon. Lots of wonderful smells and folks getting serviced here, and it's all kinds of fun.
I'm glad you can smell it. I'm a little congested, so I'm not
Well,
able to enjoy that aspect.
I'll tell you, it's wonderful. But we're going to chat with the folks here a little bit later. Right now, we're going to tackle a new topic. We're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of floating. There's a phrase I don't say often, and flotation therapy. We have Greg Griffin joining us from Float Madison. He's the owner, and we're going to learn just about that. So thanks so much for joining us.
Great, thanks for having me.
So glad to have you. So I am very interested in this topic because I understand there are a lot of benefits to float therapy. So let's talk just first about what is flotation therapy. What does that mean?
Sure, so if you haven't heard of flotation therapy, maybe you've heard of float tanks, float pods, sensory deprivation tanks they were once called, and all of those terms mean the same thing. It's basically a therapy that involves a float pod or float room, as you can see on these nice pictures here. And our space is set up like a massage studio, but instead of massage rooms, we have float suites. Inside the private float suite, it has a changing area, private shower, and then the float pod or float room, depending on what the float center will have. And we will actually have one pod in one room. And in the pod or room, there's 10 inches of water with about 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt dissolved into it.
Oh my gosh, wow. So this is a salt-heavy mixture.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So someone will come in, take a shower, step into the float tank, sit down, lay on their back, and because of the amount of salt in there, they float effortlessly on the surface.
Wow.
And the water is heated to skin neutral temperature, and there's lights inside and music that you can adjust to shut off if you'd like, to reduce as much external stimuli as possible. And when that happens, your brain starts focusing more internally, so you kind of block out a lot of the stresses that you're going through on your daily life, like cars honking and things you're thinking about. You really just have time for yourself.
Life.
Yeah, that's just the tip of the list right there. But no, that's incredible. I didn't realize there was sort of the technology behind the salt that was what makes you float. I never really gave it much thought, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's an ancient, simple technology as far as salt and floating, with the Dead Sea, but this is like a new way where we could do it basically anywhere. So.
Wow, bringing it into this century.
And you mentioned bringing your awareness more internally as a benefit of floating. What are some other benefits that people can get from floating?
Sure. So I'd say the biggest benefits, or what most people go in for, are stress relief is a huge one, and meditation purposes, pain relief, injury and sports recovery, and different mental disorders as well. There's actually some science we'll talk about a little later about the different studies that are going on right now in that aspect, but there's so much it can do for you, and some people go in for one thing and they end up realizing and coming out with other benefits they haven't even gone in there for.
Right. Oh my gosh, just the relaxation of it sounds incredible. But
Yeah,
then if you're somebody who's dealing with back pain or issues like that, that could be really incredible. So I'm thinking about just the folks that have found you so far. Who would you say are your clients right now?
Sure. So we actually have not opened yet, but we've had plenty of delays in this process. It's been a long journey, but and it's just me, so it's been kind of tough to kind of bounce things off of partners or whatever. But there's a great community of other float centers that have been helping me along the process. But talking to other float centers and meeting clients in float centers that I've been to around the country, a lot of them come in for pain relief, people that are athletes. It's big in the NFL industry right now with the New England Patriots having some float pods in their training facility.
How neat.
And ESPN just did a story a couple weeks ago on Stephen Curry, and he's been floating regularly all season, and I'm pretty sure they're in the lead still right now in the NBA. And
so can you guarantee that if I float, I can play like Steph Curry?
I think so. Have to float for a lifetime first.
Yeah, that's right.
Now,
That's
not to play devil's advocate or anything, but there are some folks who are kind of afraid of tight spaces. They're claustrophobic.
Sure.
Have you noticed anybody having any resistance or feeling any fear going into the pods?
Yeah, definitely. It's actually a very common concern that gets brought up all the time. And I love visualization when I try to explain that most people that report being claustrophobic generally report no problems once they see the float tanks and actually do it. So, we mentioned the pods. You can leave the lids open, the lights on, totally up to you. You can get out and in at any time. You're in complete control of the experience. And then we also have the float room, which is just a larger version of the pod that just, you see it in person, you're like, wow, this is way more spacious than I imagined. Same thing, you can leave the door open, leave the lights on, or shut them off, but we try to tell clients that you'll get the most out of it by shutting out as much external stimuli as possible, but it's totally fine if you leave things on for the first few float sessions, or even if you're in there for things like pain relief, it doesn't matter if the lights are on or off, but the stuff that happens in the brain with healing and the meditative aspects come when you shut off all that external stimuli.
And let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned earlier there's kind of a science behind some of this. We have just a few seconds left, but I want to make sure we touch on that.
Sure, so there's been studies back in the 80s when floating kind of first came about. This time around though, with everyone being involved with yoga, meditation, and just how much more people are involved with wellness industry, with the wellness community these days, and taking care of themselves. I think it's going to be here to stay this time. And there's a brain research center in Tulsa, Oklahoma that just built their float clinic down there. They have 2 fMRI machines right down the hallway, and they started studies a few months ago on depression, anorexia, PTSD, anxiety. They're going to start studying these over the next few years and get some real awesome scientific studies published in some journals pretty soon here.
Wow. Well, there's a mind-body connection there that's really powerful, but also you're helping to take care of that body itself. Definitely, so I can see it from both ends. Well, this is incredible information. This is Greg Griffin from Float Madison. We look forward to your official opening. We can't wait. We'll have you back. It's been lots of fun.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we've got a whole lot more Wisconsin Family coming up right after the break, so stick with us.